Welcome, everyone. You're here at our March Commission meeting, and it's my official act as a chair at this time. You know, I was a circuit judge that had a drug court. So I was a drug court judge for like 14 years. And I would tell my participants in the drug court and say, you know, you're on a sinking ship. You wouldn't be in front of me if you weren't. But the drug court, as a drug court, we're going to throw you a lifeline. Now it's up to you to grab a hold of that lifeline and pull yourself out of trouble or not. And some people would, and some people would grab a hold of that lifeline and eventually let loose. But I say that because I feel like that's what we do on this commission, is we throw people lifelines of hope, lifelines of protection. And hopefully they grab a hold of those and take a hold and pull themselves to safety. But I just want to say that I'm tickled to death to be a part of it, because I think we're doing good things, and hopefully we'll continue to do good things. So thank you all for having me. I guess you don't have a choice, but you know. Anyway, I'm excited. I'm excited to be here and excited to be chairing the commission. I've enjoyed watching the commission in action over these last 3 months. Excited to hear today about all the positive things that are happening on your committees and work groups. In your materials, you'll find a copy of the agenda and the meeting minutes from the December meeting, and they're to be added to your binder. You'll also see that you have a new Supreme Court order that provides an update to the commission membership. It's been signed into effect by Chief Justice Lambert, and there are additions. They include District Judge Tyler Green from Floyd County. Welcome, Judge. Judge Green will be filling the vacant district judge seat on the commission. He comes to us as a true advocate for recovery in both mental health and substance abuse, serving as drug court and mental health court judge, and as a member of the Specialty Court Certification Board and Juvenile Advisory Board. We welcome you, Judge. Hope you find this work is to be complimentary of your own efforts there in Floyd County. Administrative Office of the Courts Director Zach Ramsey, who is joining us today for his second meeting, was also officially appointed the AOC seat. Director Ramsey immediately became invested in the work of the commission upon his arrival with the Court of Justice. He's been present and supportive of our initiatives while navigating the many duties assigned to an AOC director. And thank goodness it's you and not me, I tell you. Director Ramsey, thank you for being here, and I hope the commission has proved to be a sense of true collaboration and effort as we work together to improve the court's response to those experiencing behavioral health concerns. Since our last meeting, we said goodbye to Jennifer Van Art Hazard, our behavioral health liaison. Jennifer stepped down to spend some quality time with her 2 young daughters and accepted a part-time position with Red Oaks Forest School that promotes learning through nature. Jennifer sends her appreciation for the opportunity to serve the commission and for all the knowledge gained as she worked beside the generous and welcoming members of this valuable initiative. She wanted to remind you to always take care of yourself and each other as you continue the important work that we are doing. We wish Jennifer the very best on her next chapter. The vacancy was posted and interviews were conducted at the end of February. I'm happy to announce that Heather Weiss has accepted the position and will step into the role April 1st. This is Heather back here in the corner, hiding from us. Heather comes to us from the Department of Specialty Courts, where she has a long history of impacting change. She's also no stranger to the commission, having served as a support staff for the work groups. She's assisting the mental health substance, serving as a leader, facilitator for the community mapping initiative, and leading the recovery-oriented system of care summit. It complemented the findings of the small town hall events. I know that each of you will join me as we welcome Heather as the commission's behavioral health liaison. Welcome, Heather. We're continuing to promote community mapping efforts across the state. We're adding Warren and Madison counties this quarter. In your materials, you will find a community mapping update to highlight the work completed in those jurisdictions. Next on the list for mapping includes Crittenden, saying that right?
Crittenden.
Yeah, Union, Webster, Bullitt, and Lincoln counties. ALC will host a second facilitators training at the end of this month to bring an additional 12 facilitators on board so we continue to offer the unique system mapping to judges and their communities. Crittenden.
Crittenden, yeah.
Yeah, Crittenden.
Something like that.
Yeah.
We're not from there.
I'm not from there, yeah. Far from it. Okay, Senate Bill 26. In December, we announced the final legislative package for 2025, which is transformed into Senate Bill 26. Sponsored by Senator Brandon Storm, Senate Bill 26 seeks to address critical issues and the protections of those with a disability in adoption proceedings, child placement determinations, and termination of parental rights cases. In your materials, you'll find a one-page overview that outlines the details of this bill. The legislative request began in the Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Work Group under the leadership of Crystal Adams. The request is also vetted through the Dependency, Neglect, and Abuse Work Group for review and consensus. Judge Marcus Vanover and Crystal Adams have been instrumental in our efforts to move this legislation forward. They first testified at the Senate Judiciary Committee with the bill passing unanimously to the Senate floor on February 6th. There, the bill gained bipartisan sponsorship and support. And on February 13th, it passed unanimously out of the Senate and was assigned to the House Standing Committee on Families and Children. On February 25th, Senator Storm, Judge Vanover, and Crystal Adams again provided testimony, and Senate Bill 26 passed unanimously once again. We are waiting for a final floor vote to finalize these efforts. We're deeply grateful to the dedication and hard work of the Intellectual and Developmental Disability Work Group in shaping this legislative recommendation. We especially appreciate the leadership and guidance of Crystal Adams and Judge Vanover. We definitely could not have made it without them. Special thanks also to the Cabinet for Health and Family Services and Department of Behavioral Health, Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities for their support. Lastly, I want to take a minute to recognize Maria Macaluso, the Commission's staff attorney. From drafting the legislative survey that brought this to our attention to completing the extensive research needed to ensure we were on the right path and everything in between, Maria has been behind the scenes and driving those efforts. Maria, thank you. We feel so fortunate to have you on our team.
Where is she?
She's over here.
There you are.
That seems to be a
She's a little
popular
tiny.
corner of the-
Yeah, everybody's hiding in that corner. I don't know what that's all about.
The reserve section.
He said that, I didn't. Before I kick it over to the presenters this afternoon, I'm excited to announce the Commission's next statewide initiative. The Department of Behavioral Health and us will be hosting 202A virtual forums that targets efforts to better serve the Kentucky citizens throughout the involuntary commitment process. These forums will be held by a community mental health region and will target district court judges, jailers, sheriffs, county attorneys, judge executives, circuit court clerks, and the community health center and state hospitals serving those areas. These forums will complement work already being conducted in the commitment work group under leadership of Stacy Tapke. Stacy's been involved in these ongoing conversations, and we thank her for work being done in this area. There will be a total of 14 forms, and we will share details as they become available. Thank you, Commissioner Katie Marks and her team for always being at the table and for their partnership in moving this initiative forward. All right, does anyone have any questions or comments about commission updates before we start the next agenda topic?
When will the dates of the meetings be?
They haven't been.
They haven't been
announced
set yet, but they will be.
yet. Probably start them in May. Mhm.
Anyone else? There was trouble with that we didn't even know was occurring, but once we were found out about it, we jumped on it, and I think we're addressing those problems.
Yeah, it was one of those situations where we think we're unified and we are, but we're not always uniform. So we're going to make sure that everyone understands their roles and what's required of them. And you have two old judges here who have taken overnight call for many, many years between us. So
Yeah.
we know that's part of the district judge responsibility.
It blows my mind when people think it's not. All right, it's my pleasure to introduce today's presenters from the Kentucky Department of Public Advocacy, who'll be sharing valuable insights into the Alternative Sentencing Workers Program. What's that?
This will be interesting.
Yeah. This is a crucial initiative aimed at providing individualized sentencing alternatives for justice-involved individuals. First, we're honored to welcome Damian Preston, the public advocate for the Kentucky Department of Public Advocacy. With a distinguished career in public defense, Mr. Preston has been a steadfast advocate for fairness, equity, and effective alternatives within the justice system. Under his leadership, the Department of Public Advocacy continues to advance innovative, gosh, man, I don't know what's wrong with me today, programs that promote rehabilitation and reduce recidivism. Damon has also been an active member of the commission since inception. Joining him is Dawn Gasser, the Alternative Sentencing Program Supervisor for the Department of Public Advocacy. Ms. Gasser plays a vital role in overseeing the ASW program, working closely with defense teams, courts, and community resources to develop sentencing alternatives that may address the root causes of justice involvement, such as mental health and substance use challenges. Together, Mr. Preston and Ms. Glasser will provide a closer look at how the Alternative Sentencing Worker Program is transforming case outcomes and fostering long-term success for individuals navigating Kentucky's legal system. Please join me in welcoming Damon Preston and Dawn Gasser.
Thank you, Justice Conley, Madam Chief Justice, and may it please the commission. Happy to be here today to talk about our innovative, award-winning alternative sentencing worker program. I want to start by giving just a little bit of history about the program. So I started as a public defender. I started in New York in 1994, came to DPA in 1997 as a staff attorney in the Richmond office. And when I became a public defender, the job of a defense attorney and a public defender specifically all took place in the courtroom. It was, what could I do for my client while I'm standing at the podium in the courtroom? Could I get probation or not probation? Could I negotiate a lower sentence? Did we stand in front of a jury to try the case? What were the defenses? And it was all pretty binary. You either won the case or you lost the case. You were either able to get the relief your client wanted or not. but it was all just the legal work. Well, in the late 1990s and the early 2000s, a concept started working its way through the public defender community nationally, and the concept was called holistic representation, which was a fancy way of just saying, you know, you can help your clients in more ways than just trying to get a not guilty verdict in the courtroom. Because the reality is most clients of DPA or even criminal defense bar at large, most end up being found guilty in some way of some charge. Statistically, that happens most of the time. And so the conversation went down the road of, if that's the reality, if you're, you know, job A is can I get the case dismissed? Can I get an acquittal? I'm trying to, quote, win the case for my client. But if the statistics show that most of the time that doesn't happen, and they're going to be found guilty, then can we continue advocating for the client at that stage? And can we make a difference to where it's guilty but productive, as opposed to guilty but just go spend some time in a jail cell somewhere? And so out of that concept, the Bronx Defenders in New York started adding social workers to their staff, and it became word spread throughout the country, hey, this is a pretty good idea. And so then it came to Kentucky in 2006. Now, in full disclosure, we had some social workers before 2006, but they were in the 202A concept, which is interesting since that's what the forums are going to be about. DPA's been involved in 202A cases as long as they've been around. And so we had a few social workers, but they were related to that. They were in Hopkinsville to serve Western State. They were in Hazard to serve Appalachian Hospital down there. But the idea was we would start using social workers beyond that capacity or beyond those areas. And so in 2006, we added 3 social workers as a pilot project, and we got funding from the legislature, and it was specifically called the Social Worker Pilot Project. It was immediately successful. And those 3 social workers, one of them is still with us today, almost 20 years later. They were high performers and got the project off on a really good foot, showing the difference that social workers could, and now we rebranded them alternative sentencing workers a few years ago because some of them don't come from a social work background, but showing the difference that those kind of workers could make in our offices. So this shows the timeline of the evolution. 2010, we were able to show the stats of those first 3. We got some more. 2014, we got 15 more. And then in 2015 is really when the state legislature decided this program is good enough that it should be in all of DPA's offices. So we have 36 offices covering the entire state. And so in 2015, we were funded for 22 additional, which brought us to 45 total, which meant that every office in the state had at least one, and some offices had more than one. Since then, it's actually gone up from there. We've added them to our post-trial division, our juvenile post-disposition. And so now we have over 50 alternative sentencing workers in all parts of DPA. Any client that DPA is appointed to statewide in any type of case has access to an alternative sentencing worker if that would help out. So before I turn it over to Dawn Gasser she leads this program and has been dedicating her career to this for many years, and she's going to talk about how it works. But since it became a program within DPA, we've won a number of awards. In 2013, we were recognized by Harvard's John Kennedy School of Government as one of the top innovations in government, not just criminal law, but the top innovations in government nationally. And we've won other awards since then for the innovation of our ASW program. But the last thing I want to cover is kind of what I think from the beginning has been a foundational concept that is why this program is successful. And that is that the alternative sentencing worker is a part of the defense team, and they are working as an agent. And so frequently we have questions come up because particularly when people come to us from a social work background, throughout their education and experience, the idea of reporting and the owing duties to the people they're working with, which can include mandatory reporting in some circumstances. That is part of that education and part of that development. And so we had to deal with that early on, because if you're in a public defender office, you're going to come across information that could fall under a mandatory reporting statute. And so we dealt with it on our own ethics internally for a while, but in 2013, I think, the legislature passed this law, which defined non-lawyer assistance within Chapter 31, which is the DPA statute. And it specifically says that any employees we have are working under the umbrella of the attorney-client relationship, and therefore that trumps other obligations. Because obviously we could not have, if I've got a client who is charged with a sex offense, and in talking with that client, the client reveals other crimes that have been committed, that would implicate mandatory reporting. So we can't have an employee in the office that then would feel a legal obligation to report that, because then that would break our confidentiality. Clients wouldn't trust us. We couldn't get the information we need. So because of this statute, our social workers and our ASWs now work under the attorney-client privilege. So I wanted to cover that just from the attorney point of view. This is essential to the success of this program, because there are well-meaning professionals all throughout the criminal justice system, but we're the only office that works for them. At their direction, our entire duty is dedicated to working with that client, and we think that helps us build trust with clients, and we think that's why our program is successful. So now I want to have Don come up and take you through kind of how the program works, how it's structured. So Don Gasser.
Can you all hear me okay? I can't see that very well, so I may reflect over here. This is one of the things that I love to do, is talk about this program. I have been in state government for over 20 years, and I've been in the human service field for about 30 years. And this program, I guess I've stayed with DPA the longest because I feel this program is so impactful. And I wish I could just grow it. But I'm not real good at public speaking. I'm not really good at that kind of thing. So I rely on Damon to do that. I'm going to explain to you how the ASW program works and why it is so successful. So as Damon said, we work as an agent of the defense attorney. So when we go in and we meet with the client, we are able to tell the client that we are underneath the same confidentiality that they are with their attorney. That immediately makes that client relax. They are more open. They are able to talk to us about things that have happened in their past. They don't feel judged. They don't think about getting extra charges added on and things like that. They're able to open up to us and tell us the things that started them on this route through the criminal justice system. The ASW will then sit down and talk about demographics with the client, who are support systems, those kind of things. This all comes from after the attorneys have identified that person as a good candidate to work with our program. We wish that we could help every individual that comes through the justice system, but the main ones that we focus on are ones with mental health disorders and substance abuse disorders. The other thing that makes this program so unique is we focus on individualized paths. So one path is not going to work for everyone. Some folks will need medication assistance. Some folks might need a different type of therapy that's new and innovative. Some people need a combination of therapy. They have co-occurring disorders where they need to be assessed for their mental health first and then work on that substance use disorder. So we try to look at all the different paths that are out there and that are available and direct that client to their specific path for recovery. We also educate families and we also collect data. So every ASW is responsible for entering data after they meet with the client as far as the demographics. The reason why we request this and they do this is not only so that we have that information and can share it with other collaborating agencies, but also so we can go back in 12 months and see what the outcome is. How are they doing? Did they go and get their GED? Are they working? Are they still in recovery? Where are they now? You know, what impact did we have when we met with that client? So that's very important that they go back in and they're making those contacts at 12 months. The ASWs also collaborate between agencies. So we work with all different kinds of agencies throughout our communities. We beg, borrow, and steal off of pilots through DOC. We are so thankful for Van Ingram and his support of this program because he's able to help us with transportation and things like that. So we collaborate across the communities and across the statewide agencies. We also, when we go in and meet with a client, we're using an evidence-based practice of motivational interviewing. You're looking for client strengths. That way we can focus on, for example, if a client had worked on their grandfather's farm, they might be better in a individualized placement that would help them, you know, regain those skills and focus on their recovery that way. So we're looking for those positive things, but we're also looking at that change tactic. Are they ready for this change? Are they ready to move forward in their recovery? So we're doing a lot of things when we're in there, and those interviews can last anywhere from an hour and a half to I've sat with clients for 2 hours. The more information, the more rapport that you build with that client, the better placement that you're going to help them make. So together, the ASW, along with the client, are coming up with that individualized plan. We're letting them buy into their plan. We're letting them be a part of that recovery path. We're not forcing them, we're including them. And I kind of went through this already on motivational interviewing. This approach works with diverse cultures. We use it in the East, West, South, all over. It's scientific, it's evidence-based. It doesn't delegate what treatment path that person has to be on, and we found that it's highly effective. This was on the study that was done in 2015. The return, the ROI was $3.76 for every dollar. We are proud that, and I'm very thankful to Damon and our leadership team that we were able to get with the Fletcher Group, and we will have a new outcome study that will be out June 1. And we're super excited to see what that return on investment is. We're also super excited to see how many folks we have actually been able to help, and they are on their way to being sober. They are on their way to having a home. They are on their way to building their families and being a part positively in your all's communities. This is our, whoopsie doopsie. Okay, so this is our fiscal year numbers for 2024. We served 6,771 clients, and we presented over 5,124 plans. 3,511 of those plans were approved. So that's wonderful. We have gradually increased, and that's what that next slide will show you over the years. But we also do what's called quick actions. These are not formal plans. These are assists to family members of the client. They could be quick housing assistance to someone who needs information from the community about where local housing is, or how to get on the internet and look up the housing options that are available. These are different social service things that we address to keep clients in recovery, to make sure their families have the support they need when they are, when dad's away at recovery, they're able to get, information from the ASW about food pantries, Medicaid, other options, things like that. Oops. It's like my mouse, it double clicks. There we go. I don't know if you all can see that or not real well. These are the totals that for each year, starting with FY17. I didn't really hop on board until the end of FY19. I was in a field office, so I actually know what the ASWs do out in the field, and I still work with clients and carry a caseload myself. But as you can see, our numbers have progressed all the way up into FY24. We were at 169%. So 69% above what we were originally designated to do. And that's with 53 ASW positions and one person that's over the program. The heroes, though, are the ASWs that are in the field that are doing this amount of work within a 7.5-hour day. This is a list of our case priorities. Originally, when the plan was started, we wanted to see that we could focus, we wanted to make sure we could focus on individuals that were looking at a lot of time. So we started off with circuit court cases, and then it trickled down into district court cases, YO cases, 202As, those kind of things. Now the program tries to help as many people as possible. Originally, we looked at a number of 70 plans per ASW. We are exceeding that right now, way over that. I have one ASW that presented over 254 plans. So we try to help as many people as possible, but we're also trying to save money of incarceration. So in between the combination of the two, we focus on circuit, but if somebody needs help at the district court level, or we can keep that F case at district court, we will jump in and help if we can. So accountability and efficiency of the program. I make office visits constantly and assess the training needs of my ASWs. We have an ASW annual conference every year in addition to DPA annual conference, where we focus on the needs of the ASWs and the needs of their communities. So we direct our entire conference towards what those ASWs have turned in on their monthly reports, that the needs are in their communities and that their needs are as far as education wise. We also audit. So I go in monthly when they turn in their monthly reports, and I audit each individual plan that is presented. I'm making sure that they are presenting adequate plans. I'm making sure they are collaborating and sending individuals to approved placements with the cabinet's list. I'm also looking to make sure that the housing is NAR certified as well. I think I covered all that. These are your ASWs across the state of Kentucky, doing a little bit of everything from going to rallies to assisting with expungement clinics. If there's something going on in their community, they're there. They work with veterans events. Some of them stand and cook for the homeless. They are involved in the communities. They are the connecting puzzle piece in the middle. We had a scare last year, and I think Damon's going to talk a little bit about that. And the only thing that went through my mind was they're taking out that puzzle piece, the connection piece within if they remove that ASW. Again, working with other agencies, we are so thankful to be on the pilot with DOC for their transportation program. We also are able to utilize DOC's RKC Recovery Kentucky Center beds, which is wonderful. We've coordinated with the Kentucky Access to Recovery. We've coordinated with the harm reduction program through CORE. We're just involved trying to coordinate as much as possible and be involved in addressing mental health and substance abuse needs. There you go. No. I think about 2 years ago, I can't remember, it all kind of is a big blur. We were able to coordinate with CORE And after presenting to leadership on harm reduction and how we had to get in there and dig and prevent people from overdosing, we were able to coordinate a program within the ASW program where we can hand out testing strips for naloxone and not for naloxone, for fentanyl and xylazine, and hand out naloxone to high-risk clients. So if this client at the time chooses that they do not want to participate in a program immediately, or maybe they want to serve out their 30 days because they're just not there yet, they're just not ready to pursue that path to recovery, we make sure that those clients have in hand Narcan and testing strips when they walk out the door. We also have found that by giving our clients the Narcan, it's getting passed out to other members in the community as well. So that little hump of their friends is also, we're getting the Narcan into their hands as well. We also put Narcan and testing strips in the bags that they have at the jail. So when they leave the jail, they're able to have that already. And we do feel that this is having a real positive effect on high-risk clients. These are just a few of the success stories that I could get up here, just a handful, because these are the ones we had photo releases for. But these clients represent the work that the ASWs do. The gentleman, Patrick, with the horse. This is a program called Horse Sensing. This gentleman came from Bell County. He had no skills, 8th grade education. He was looking at a felony case that would eventually be sent up to circuit court. The ASW was able to get this client into treatment, into this horse sensing program. He's completed the program. He is a master groomer and is now working to be an assistant supervisor on one of the big horse farms in Shelbyville. Michaela, the lady down here in with Tina Mills in the blue. Michaela was misdiagnosed with severe SMI. Tina was insistent about going back and talking to Kayla repeatedly. She had been in jail for over 6 months. She observed some things there that concerned her about her health, her physical health. So she was able to come up with the money. Sometimes that might even come out of their own pocket, sorry, and get her seen by a medical professional. It turns out that Michaela had Huntington's disease. She didn't have severe SMI. She had Huntington's disease and she was deteriorating rapidly. Tina was able to get with the attorney and they were able to get Michaela out and into a rehab. She is there now. She is doing well. She is deteriorating, but at least she is where she needs to be to get the help that she needs. We have other clients that are up here as well. And I have a list of all of those. James is up here in this first picture. He is a veteran. James had a severe PTSD episode where he fired a weapon randomly into traffic. Come to find out, he had tried to contact VA before this episode and did not get any help. Between the attorney and the ASW, they were able to get James into the VA. He is stable, he is clean, he is on his medication, and he is doing well. These are folks that, you know, otherwise may have been discarded without our program. And the impact that it's having across the state, I can only encourage everyone in here, if you have the opportunity to work with an ASW or to be involved with an ASW, please do so, because this is going to make change. We are the piece of the puzzle that needs to be there. And we would love to grow our program in the future. So I think that's all I have. Oh, barriers and gaps. I always put this up here in case somebody can help. What we're seeing now is we're seeing an older population, a lot across the state. And that older population has Medicare. A lot of treatment facilities will not accept Medicare. So that's one of our huge barriers that we run into. Now, we do end up getting those clients placed. Mental health primary programs. There's very few in the state, and thank goodness we can utilize the SHARE program through DOC. Mental health residential programs, there just isn't any. Once they're stabilized, those clients, then we're trying to figure out where can we put them. Where can we give them a home? Where can they continue to go and see their mental health provider and get their medication and things like that? So that's another barrier that we run into. Transportation for our district court clients. Van is taking care of our circuit court clients, but our district court clients, a lot of times they do not have transportation or support systems. So that's always a barrier that we run into as well. Sober livings are starting to open up more and more across the state, and we are so thankful for that. And we are also thankful for the NAR certification to ensure that those are great opportunities for these individuals. So that barrier, I think, is being bridged. And then I'm going to turn it back over to Damon.
All right, and Don, just stay up here
Oh,
for a second, because
yes, sir.
there may be some questions, and we'll finish up here quickly. I asked AI to generate a picture of me for me of social workers helping a drug addicted client through a rural area. This is what we got. It's decent. What this is signaling is that there's a storm on the horizon that I wanted you to know about. And if you didn't know about the storm we came through last year that Dawn referred to, I wanted to talk about that just a little bit. So even despite this well-developed, well-evolved program that Dawn has talked about, in last year's budget session, with no notice to us and no opportunity to defend ourselves, the budget passed the House, the first step of the process, with a complete defunding of this program in DPA. That would have, had it passed that way, it would have resulted in 63 people losing their jobs. And this piece of the puzzle, as Don said, just going completely away. It wasn't a phase out. It was a complete destruction of the program. We were able to work with the Senate and the second chamber and the conference committee, and we got the program back funded. But it was definitely a shot across the bow. I'll do my best to explain where that came from. I think there are a couple concerns with the program that were expressed. First is just a feeling from lawyers who were educated and came into their legal profession the same way as what I talked about when I started practice in 1997, which is that this isn't the practice of law, and that this should not exist in a public defender office. If this is going to exist, it should exist somewhere else. We strongly disagree with that. We think the public defender office is a perfect place for this to be because we have the relationships with the clients. But that was expressed, that this isn't legal practice and the public defender should be doing legal practice only. The second concern was that the people that we hire aren't qualified. We strongly disagree with that. Through the extensive training that Dawn helps lead, their annual conference, repeated educational opportunities we provide, as well as the years of experience that most of them have, we believe they're very qualified to do what they do. This is not a treatment program. We are a piece of the puzzle. We connect people to treatment. And so we were able to resist, but I didn't want to let today's presentation end without saying, we have heard secondhand that storm is not completely in the past, that there are still people that want that to be in next year's budget now that we have noticed that perhaps this will be phased out next year. And so to the extent you if you believe this is a productive part of addressing clients with mental health, which is why we're all here, then I would ask that you be supportive of the program. If it goes down that road, I may come with a more specific ask, but just for now, to the extent if you support this program, we appreciate anything you can do for it. We're at the end of our time, and I don't want to take any more of our time, but we're happy to answer some questions if there are any. Yeah, Judge Meyer.
What, if any, resources are available for ASW program type resources that are available for conflict counsel, who of course also represents people who are entitled to court-appointed counsel?
You want to deal with that?
The same resources are available. It's just a different form, different request, and that could be sent into Brad Holleiter and myself, and we will try to get someone in that region assigned that is not a conflict.
Yeah, we've communicated with our conflict counsel that this is available. And so if there are cases in your court where you think this could be helpful and conflict attorneys seem to not know they have this resource or aren't using the resource, you can encourage them to just contact me and I'll connect them to where they need to be. Yeah.
I don't think there's been like a Judge, I don't think there's like been a formal thing sent out to everyone, because if you can imagine just looking at our FY 24 numbers, and then we would be assigning additional cases from the conflicts. So that's probably why we haven't rolled it out as a big,
My circuit traditionally has a high volume of conflict cases. It did when I worked in the Richmond trial office. I believe that it still does. I don't think I've ever seen an ASW recommendation or something akin to that come from any of our conflict attorneys. And I do think sometimes that holds up timely resolutions, and more productive resolutions for all of the defendants involved. And we have very good conflict attorneys. We also have two really engaged ASWs in the Richmond trial office. I can't speak highly enough of Janetta and Shannon. So, you know, I just want to make sure that folks know what resources are available. It's an equity issue too, right? Just because you're
Yes.
on conflict counsel doesn't mean you should be, deprived or unable to access these same resources that the rest of the public defender's clients get.
Yeah,
So
I fully agree with that. Yeah, and we want to address that as much as we can. Fully agree with the equitable. Those clients are deserved.
Yes.
All of our clients should be getting the same services.
and I do pick up a lot of those conflict cases when we receive those referrals. So please make sure that they send those if you're able to let them know. And we can get Brad to get those, you know, assigned, or I can help with that as well.
Thank you all.
Mhm.
What other questions? Yeah, Judge.
Yeah. I'm happy to say that my public defender's office has been like the top one the last 3 years, Stanton Public Defender's Office. And the reason I think it is we're using it maybe different than what you all are saying. We're using it as a pretrial release type program. So the ASW comes to court every time, and I've got somebody there for their preliminary hearing, and they'll say, the county attorney will say, well, we're going to have the hearing, or if they're willing to go to rehab, then we'll hold it off and see how that works out. So a lot of our possession first cases aren't going to circuit court, and they're not getting that CR case number because we're using the ASW in court a lot. And I think that's why our numbers are so high, because they're coming to court every time we have court. So when you go back to General Assembly, it's typically in our circuit about $2,000 from preliminary hearing to indictment, what the counties are paying to house the inmates. And that's $2,000 that they're not going to have to pay now because they're in rehab. So
That's great. I'm so happy to hear that. And you're right, that wasn't the originally, as Dawn said, our focus was on felony probation partly because that was easy to calculate when we needed to come up with it, and pretrial's harder because of it's no defined time amount. But our goal now is that wherever we have clients in jail, if we can get them out with an ASW, we want to, and I'm glad to hear it's working that way. Any other questions?
Thank you, Damon and Don, for
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so
being here
much.
with us today and sharing your work on alternative sentencing. You know, speaking as a judge that had 25 years of judicial experience as a trial judge, I think the fact that almost 2/3 of your plans that were presented were approved and used shows that your work is valuable to both the court and the individuals concerned. All right, next on the agenda is committee and workshop updates. In your materials, you'll find the quarterly reports for all the work groups. But up first, we will welcome Amy Luttrell as the new chair of the Treatment and Access Committee. Thank you, Amy. Amy's the president and CEO of Goodwill Industries. As you'll recall, we opened the chair of the Treatment and Access Committee up after the tragic loss of Judge Mullins. Amy volunteered almost immediately, has jumped right into action. Amy, I know that Judge Mullins would be very proud of you doing that and the work you've done.
Thank you, Justice Conley, and I certainly thought a lot of Judge Mullen. My organization did a lot of work with him and his court in Eastern Kentucky, and we appreciated him very much and missed working with him. So As Justice Conley said, I'm a new chair here and I don't have expertise in some of the areas that Judge Mullins had, but I'm working to get up to speed on the work of all three of these groups so that I can try to support their efforts, and certainly appreciate the excellent support in doing that from Shauna and Maria and Dr. Stubbs and the rest of the team. Thank you all so much for making this doable. So first on the agenda is the Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Work Group headed up by Crystal Adams. And this work group has been very robust in their the things that they've been producing. And so I'll ask Crystal, I know she's here somewhere. Right here, okay, to give the commission a report on your work group, Crystal. Thank you.
Good afternoon. We have met twice since our last quarterly meeting in January and in February. We continued to discuss our legislative recommendation as we received updates on earlier. And we were lucky to have a speaker, Professor Robin Powell, who came and spoke to our group. She is an attorney and an expert on parental rights for individuals with disabilities and is a parent who has disabilities. And so she really covered a lot of the work that's been done and research at a national level related to this issue. We chose to use our February meeting as an opportunity to update our work plan. We focused on which items we could check off of our list, which were ongoing, and where we wanted to go with our next steps. At this point, we've identified a couple of different areas that we're wanting to pursue further. First is related to data collection efforts across the spectrum of the justice system and where those gaps are in terms of the information that we have about individuals with disabilities, what the disabilities are, and to get a better idea of what not only the prevalence, but how we can intervene within the justice system with that additional information. So we're going to continue to pursue the opportunities to get better data and to gather that data and do some analysis with it. We've also continued to look at self-identifying models. We have in the past had speakers related to several of the different models that we've seen in use across the state and in other states as well, but there is no common self-identifying model that's used statewide, and we're wanting to continue to look at opportunities to expand the use of those models, as there's been a lot of positive feedback on the benefits of that and with individuals working with first responders. One of our other activities that is occurring outside of our monthly meetings is our mini groups we have that are working on trainings. In addition to the two trainings we have completed, we have 2 additional trainings that are under their review and approval, and then we hope to be scheduling those recordings in the upcoming months. We also have 2 additional trainings that are in their final edits and that we hope to have prepared for approval soon as well, and then many more that are farther down the pipeline. I'm proud to announce that one of the trainings that's currently under review and one of the trainings that's under their final edits will be the first 2 trainings for our sub-work group for autism in the courts. And we're really looking forward to having those finalized. We've had some wonderful self-advocates who've done some amazing work on these trainings that I think are going to have a huge impact on both individuals who work within the justice system, as well as individuals with autism who are working and dealing with the justice system in a variety of different ways. And we think it's going to be very impactful, and I'm so excited to be close to having those done.
Any questions for Crystal? Well, thank you, Crystal, and we thank your whole work group for the great work that you all have been doing. Next up is a report from the Court Responses Work Group, and that is headed by Judge Stephanie Burke. And Judge Burke had planned to be with us today, but had another obligation come up, and I believe she is online, but just wasn't sure that she'd be able to be in a position to give that report. I will tell you a couple of things from the one meeting of that I've attended, and then refer you to the full report from this work group that's in your packet. We did have met, on January 28th and February 25th, and had a presentation from the Department of Vehicle Regulation. Medical Review Board, and that report was about their processes for a person being able to get their license, their driver's license, reinstated after they've lost that when they were deemed incompetent to stand trial. So their situation may have changed significantly since then, and they would like to get their license back, and that would be very useful to them. So that's an issue that this work group is interested in. Also had a really exciting presentation from on the pilot jail-based competency restoration program that's being piloted at Metro Corrections. And that pilot is going very well. The group was very excited to hear about the results of that, some of the outcomes, and is very much hoping that that pilot might be able at some point to be extended to some other locations around the state where there would also be a lot of need for that. This work group is very interested in expansion of the mental health court initiatives that we have in some locations, and we'll be working with AOC on trying to advance that goal. And again, you have the full report of this work group in your packet today. And then finally, we have the Strengthening Committees or Communities Work Group, and that has been headed by Wes Butler. And Wes has been doing a great job for us in that work group, but duty calls with his paid work. And so he is feeling that he needs to step back for a little while as the chair of that work group. So we really appreciate his work in this area and acknowledge all the contributions that he has made. So hot off the presses here, we do have someone who is willing to step up and chair this work group, and that is Dr. Jasinski at Eastern State. So we certainly want to thank you, Dr. Jasinski. She and I just met a few minutes ago, and welcome you to that role. And I think a couple of members, other commission members who are on Dr. Jasinski's team are also going to be pretty heavily involved in that. So that really bodes well for all of us for the work of this work group. So I know it would be very easy, since I haven't even attended a meeting of this work group, to misspeak. So I'm just going to leave it at that and refer you to the report that's in your packet. But I will say that I think all of these, three of these work groups are trying to position us for possible legislative changes that could advance the work of this commission in the next session in 2026. We've got a ways to go, but as we all know, a lot of that work has to happen far in advance of the session itself. And I know that some of the members and the leadership of these work groups are coordinating with work groups of the other committees since there are some overlapping issues. So that's our report, and we'll continue trying to advance the goals of the commission. Back to you, and I appreciate the opportunity to report, Justice Conley.
Well, thank you, Amy and Crystal, and welcome, Dr. Jasinski. Up next, we have Civil and Family Justice Committee, covered today by Brenda Rosen, filling in for Judge Foster Cutoff.
Thank you so much. I'm not as witty and adorable as Judge Cutoff or Chris Griffith, so just bear with me. But TGIF, and I don't. Please do. But we had a great meeting on February 21st with Tammy Blevins, the Executive Director of Kentucky Partnership for Families and Children, on peer support services. And I will add, as a social worker, the work they do is incredible. So it was a delight to welcome her to the meeting. KPFC's mission is to empower families affected by behavioral health issues to initiate personal and systemic change. Their services are also provided statewide and guided by the needs of their service populations, most recently related to disaster services, which I think we all can sincerely appreciate the impact on our kiddos and families. The work groups remain focused on advancing work plan priorities, and key areas of focus for these groups include developing bench cards and training opportunities for judges, clerks, counsel, community supports, and families on best practice and processes, exploring communication methods and existing resources to enhance collaboration between system partners, and exploring AOC forms and proposing legislative changes to enhance uniform practices. And speaking of collaboration, I want to really thank you, Damon and Dawn, for everything that you just presented and how important the work you do is. So at this point, the wonderful Judge Brown was not able to be here today, but the Domestic Violence Work Group continues to do great work. So please refer to the quarterly update materials. And I will now ask Judge Vanover for an update on the Dependency, Neglect, and Abuse Committee. Thank you.
The Dependency, Neglect, and Abuse Work Group met on February 7th. At this group meeting, we received updates from our 4 priority areas. The first one is our enhancing collaboration and communication with system partners priority areas. They are working for a series of trainings they're calling Relationship Matters Part 2. They have identified their 5 sessions that they wish to do initially, focusing on professionalism, secondary trauma, ACEs and PACEs, MAT and MOUD, and high acuity youth. AOC staff are assisting the presenters with developing these presentations and the logistics of planning and scheduling the recording of these webinars. The plan is that they will record the webinars and then broadcast them, and the presenters will be able to monitor the chat and answer questions live during those presentations. The next meeting for that group is scheduled for March 14th, at which time the participants will be reviewing the proposed presentations, and they hope to have all the presentations prepared and recorded by the end of May. Another development that's arose with that work group is that we've been contacted by representatives of the Children's Justice Act Task Force, and they were inquiring about similar presentations on training. So we have tried to get the trainers from the CJA group together with our Relationships Matters trainers to try to collaborate on some of those trainings, maybe add some additional training grounds to expand our Relationships Matters. We have 2 priority areas that have been largely completed. We're still waiting on the formatting and legal approval for our understanding the role of treatment providers, bench cards, and our resource guide, best practices resource guide matters. Those work groups are largely completed. We're just waiting on the final edits of those. And so we are trying to find new areas for those team members to work on. Our final group is the Enhancing Training for Court-Appointed Counsel group. There have already been 3 trainings that they did in the fall. We have new trainings scheduled, one for May 16th at the Laurel County Health Department, one for May 23rd at the Pennyrile Area Development District in Hopkinsville, and the June 16th, I think that training will be in that room where you all are today at AOC. Attorneys for the Children's Law Center will be presenting on trauma during the training, and those attorneys will also participate in a Trauma Train the Trainer series prior to presenting to the DNA legal trainings. Registration for those trainings is available on the Kentucky Court of Justice website under Court Programs, Family and Juvenile Services, Legal Training for Dependency, Neglect, and Abuse Cases. Let's see. They're working on, after each of these 3 sessions go, the comments are reviewed and these trainings are reviewed and tried to tweak to make sure that we're staying current with the issues needed to be addressed and that we are, making any changes that are need to be as those progress. We have sent out a survey to our team members to try to find out what our next priority works will be for those work groups that have already completed their work. We're hoping to have that ready for us to get started with new tasks when we meet again on May 13th. And we are also working on discussions on May 13th. We'll be talking about our legislative priority areas for 2026, which we've already touched upon regarding GAL legal representation and restoration of parental rights, further expansion of family courts, and piloting pre-petition legal representation. So those will be some of our discussions that we'll be determining what proposals to make to the executive committee from our work group when we meet in May. And I believe that's everything. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judge. You're wonderful. And last but not least, the amazing Stacy Tapkey to talk about the Guardianship and Commitment Committee.
Good afternoon, everyone, and sorry I can't be present with you. I actually took the opportunity to observe the CIT training that is taking place in Northern Kentucky this week, especially as it's come up, I know, in my work group as well as others. We have, I think I mentioned last time, gone to guardianship and commitment meeting every other month. We meet the second Wednesday of the month at 3 p.m. And we have a very open door policy. So at any point in time you're interested in either one of those, please feel free to join us. And what's kind of come up through this process that I like is people are bringing issues to us as they crop up for our committees to review and discuss. An example of that is, and I'll start with guardianship, someone brought to our attention the potential conflicts that may exist with service providers who have providing services for individuals who are under some sort of waiver that are also serving in the role as guardian. Can they do both? Should they be doing both? Is there anything that needs to be changed with regard to that? Is something that's been brought to our attention and we're exploring. We also are working on our work plan, part of which involves making sure we're providing training both to county attorneys, to our judiciary and others who are involved, private counsel, those in the GAL role. And so we're reaching out to potential partners such as the Kentucky Guardianship Association, and also I've reached out to Prosecutor Advisory Council for training county attorneys in particular. And then we've also sent out our 2026 legislative survey to get feedback from our group members as to what, if anything, we need to look at for the next legislative session. As far as our commitment work group that addresses, it depends on where you're from. It might be 202As, might be MIWs, involuntary commitments that we continue to work on. And a great presentation that we had was from the Department for Behavioral Health, Developmental, and Intellectual Disabilities. Say that 4 times fast, about the 1915 I-State Plan amendment that may be coming. It was really focused on giving us an overview, and hopefully if everything goes well with that program, we can invite them back at a future point to talk about how that would actually be implemented. And we also continue to have pretty robust conversations about the AOC forms and what recommendations we can provide back to AOC as to potential form changes. And we're continuing to do that. We're also continuing to work on our materials that would educate the public and the various parties in an involuntary commitment process about, what to expect depending on where you are and what your role is. However, we've kind of come to the conclusion that we can focus on some statewide information, but a lot of this is very regional in nature. And I am very excited to hear about the regional meetings that are going to take place to talk about the 202A process. And I would anticipate that perhaps our committee may see some things come out of those meetings in the future. So anything else, I'd refer you to the notes and stand for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Brenda, for taking the lead on this today. And thanks to Judge Vanover and Stacy for your work group updates. Lastly, we have Criminal Justice Committee, and Judge Mayer is with us today to provide that update. There she is again.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. We seem to be maybe ahead of schedule on a Friday afternoon, and I will not try to throw us off course, right? Judge Tackett has stood in for me regularly over the past year due to some conflicts. I just wanted to say I appreciate him being here. He is an exceptionally involved vice chair, and so I'm grateful for him when he's present on my behalf. And in fact, it probably is an improvement, although he may have a habit of saying otherwise. So worst case scenario, it's a mutual admiration society with the Criminal Justice Committee. And I say that because you're going to hear from our work group leads in a minute, and they're all exceptional. They do great work, and we have a lot of progress that's being made at the continued planning and involvement and direction of those work group leads. In general, what's going on with the Criminal Justice Committee is substantially similar to what the rest of you are doing, which is that right now the work groups are actively developing and refining their work plans to align with specific goals and needs. You know, each work group continues to determine what those needs and goals are through a pretty extensive education, investigation, and research practice. And all of that is lined up so that we can help move toward that 2026 legislative session with some meaningful requests that can make some change for citizens of Kentucky and the people that we all serve. So I'm proud to announce the work group leads in 1 second. The last shout out I have to give is to the folks that helped us with our community mapping. Madison County did community mapping at the end of January. It was very involved. I think we had some good work that was done. I'm encouraged by the report that came out of it. AOC and the Judicial Commission on Mental Health staff that helped with it did an excellent job. I got great feedback from community members. What I want to say to all of you is these mapping events are obviously extending out to the Commonwealth. If it comes to your county or an adjacent county or somewhere where you have colleagues that work, please encourage them to be involved. The quality of that report, the quality of the work that you do is going to be based on having diversity at the table, on having different fields represented. We were lucky to have hospital systems, housing representatives, a variety of people from the criminal justice system, and that all led to a really productive meeting and an opportunity for us to, of course, share information that we didn't know about each other. I was almost in, I don't know if I want to say I was embarrassed, but I sat there and heard about things that exist in my community and benefit my citizens that I didn't know about, or at least didn't know about the struggles and hardships they were having to keep their doors open and provide services, about the lack of referrals and what it means to them in terms of getting funding and continuing to keep the doors open. So please, if you see the invitation come out, if it comes to you and you're the representative of whatever hospital, whatever treatment group, whatever social work entity, please send it to your colleagues and tell them to get someone there. It's 2 days, but it is 2 days well spent if you show up ready to work and share that information with your friends and your colleagues. So thank you to everybody that put that together for us. I look forward to doing it in Clark County later this year, and I know I have other colleagues who will have it done in their community soon. So it's really exciting. Put it on your calendar. And with that, we'll pass this along to the eminently capable and competent Dr. Slusher.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, everyone. So the Competency Work Group is still a very active work group. We meet monthly. We are very close. AOC has been working really hard, diligently to develop form orders for us, and we are very close to distributing those. We are taking that opportunity to provide a lot of messaging to make sure everyone understands how to get orders, court orders to the right place and have all the contact information they need for every hospital. So that will be coming out very soon. We are able to share that since implementation of SES law, the data that we had before continues. So we're still seeing about 2/3 of people who are going through the competency evaluation are being opined as competent. So it's moving the bulk of people through the system and with great efficacy. We're very proud of that work. We're also able to say that outpatient evaluations across the hospital system, some misdemeanor cases too, are being evaluated within 4 weeks, which is something that we were able to advocate for, that this really expedited cases, and we're continuing to see that. It was referenced a few moments ago that we did do a presentation on our jail-based program in LMDC, Louisville Metro, at the Court Responses Work Group at Judge Burke's request, and that allowed Dr. Maria Lederman at Louisville Metro is the chief psychologist, and she's instrumental in that in that programming. We were able to share all the good work of jail-based programming and how it builds out the continuum of care and allows us to continue to use the beds at our forensic hospital and our psychiatric hospital Central State for where they're needed the most for those high acuity patients with really complex treatment needs. And that allows people to be served in real time at the jail. And we moved one of our forensic psychiatrists at KCPC into the treatment role for those patients. So it allows for a real continuum of care to exist as well. From that work, we are looking at expanding that into a second jail. So I think by the next time we meet again, we'll be able to share a lot of detail about where that exists. But we're able to do that because we're able to show so much success. I've mentioned that we are developing a training. We're very close to recording that training. It's a 6-hour training, and it is being headed up by Dr. Sussman from the Department of Behavioral Health and Central State and KCPC. And it is going to walk through the entire forensic system from beginning to end. It's going to be very informative, and I think it's going to be very productive for our state. And we also provide still monthly meetings at KCPC for all the state hospitals. So that's where we all come together as a group and talk about CESLA implementation, any barriers, any system changes that we need to address. And it's very cohesive and a lot of collective thinking that's moving us in the right direction. And I think, oh, and one last thing. We've mentioned before that Council on State Governments was our technical assistance advisor for our competency work group, and that contract is over, and they developed 3 work products for us. They are very interested in sharing those on a national level with some of the other states who are facing some competency evaluation backlogs. So we are working to tweak some of the language in some of those products so that they can share those on a national level, and it really highlights the work of Kentucky. So we're very excited about that. And I think that's it, unless there are any questions. Oh, well, I always like to give an update. We have 89 people waiting for a KCPC bed as of yesterday, and that's the lowest wait list, I think, maybe in the history of KCPC. Any questions for me? All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Slusher. We have the pre-arrest and diversion group that's headed by Steve Shannon. I don't think he is available this afternoon. So I will give a brief update. You can see it's substantially similar to what you saw from our prior committee meeting. This group continues to work on finalizing the police social worker white paper. That's been a significant amount of investigation and presentation that group has been reviewing and considering. In addition to that, they continue to receive presentations on kind of outshoots of that concept, right? Mobile crisis units, things like that perform similar functions. The big thing they're working on and have been working on for some time is completing the statewide jail survey mapping, which is going to talk about different jail types, the services that are available. You know, there's a hope that coming out of that, we're going to be able to do some additional work that kind of rolls in with the reentry group, which is our newest work group, and some stuff that will be informative for other committees, and then additionally other work groups. So we're waiting for results there, but that's something that is a work in progress. That will then take us to our Juvenile Justice Committee, which you all are all aware has been very industrious since we started this process, since we started with the commission. So we have Judge Jones who leads that, if you'd update us.
So our Juvenile Justice Committee has met on February 15th, but we have sub-work groups that have been meeting more than that one time. But I was really grateful for the passion and for the discussion that we had at our last work group meeting, that we really still seem to have a fire underneath of us even after all this time. Also grateful to Maria and everyone else at AOC. If we think of a speaker that we want, if we think of legislation from another state that we want to look at, if we have materials we want to consider, the next thing we know, they're all in our email box. So I'm so grateful to you all for all your hard work and research. Good news, if y'all remember in the past, I mentioned to you all the 3-year-old in Kentucky that was charged with a felony. Those charges have been dismissed. So we can take pride in that. With the legislation that passed last year, though, we are seeing the beginnings of a groundswell of truancy and beyond control charges that are being filed against Kentucky's children, even against children as young as kindergarten age, and even children with severe intellectual and mental health disabilities, including children who are nonverbal, having charges being brought against them. So that leads us into our legislative priorities subgroup. We are looking again at the competency statute. As we've said before, Kentucky does not have a threshold for competency, and there have been efforts in the past to try and develop that and to get that passed through legislation. And those have not been successful, but we're not giving up and we're going to try again. And in that effort, we had a presentation with our legislative priorities subgroup from Dr. Antoinette Kavanaugh. She is a leading juvenile forensic psychology expert out of Illinois. And she presented to us on adolescent brain development and provided recommendations and examples of legislation from other states that she thought were good, some that she thought were bad, and some that she thought were really good but could be better. And she went over with us things that as we develop our legislation to make sure that we considered definitions that we should make sure we include in our legislation, and processes and things not to leave out and not to leave to chance as we develop that. So we were very glad to hear from her. We are going to continue on that, and part of that fire that got lit against us was thanks to, former Senator Whitney Westerfield is part of our legislative priorities work group and part of our juvenile justice work group, but he gave us a lot of insight on working with legislators and how to get things developed in a timeline. So he kind of jump-started our timeline and told us that we really need to get moving if we want to have something presentable for next year. So that helped light the fire. Also, we're going to be on the lookout for a potential legislator to add to our legislative priorities subgroup so that we can already have someone working with us, developing legislation with us, that they are aware of, that they know why we're doing it, and so that we don't have to come in at the back end and try and educate somebody, get somebody passionate about the issue, and possibly make tweaks to it. We can get that all done at the beginning. So we're going to continue that. And we also have a mapping subgroup, and they've received a presentation from the University of Connecticut's Innovations Institute on mobile responses and stabilization services. They focused on expanding Kentucky's crisis services through intentional workflows and strengthening collaborations with existing programs. They also reviewed care pathways analysis work and discussed the SEAC presentations that they've received and analyzed the state's behavioral health Medicaid claims data. So they continue to receive updates from SEAC, and they're working hand in hand with SEAC, the State Interagency Council, on areas where they can, and especially with rapid response and crisis stabilization. And that leads us to our work group and our work plan and action items. And one of those is to continue to draft recommendations regarding improvements for crisis stabilization services for youth throughout the state, and also to finalize recommendations for statewide pro-social efforts, which was the area that our juvenile justice mapping found that we were most in need of in the state, and then to continue working on our legislative initiatives.
Thank you, Judge Jones and the Juvenile Justice Work Group. That takes us then to our newest work group, Reentry, which is headed up by Erica Hargis, who is joining us on Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. We've had a couple of meetings with our work group. We started out as a really big work group, and we've kind of started to get a little smaller. So I do want to invite anyone that's interested to join us. We had a meeting January 16th and February 20th. In January, we heard from 7 County Services specifically about their deflection program in Louisville and how we could kind of collaborate with them. In February, we heard from the Department of Corrections, the Division of Reentry Service, who has jump-started reentry centers in all of the state institutions that started February 1st. So that was really interesting for our work group to hear about, so that we can kind of continue our work plan and maybe work alongside of the Department of Corrections and what is happening there. And all of the different ways that community partners are being brought into those. So I think we are going to definitely be able to work in our work plan some things to go along with that. We're also very interested in our work plan about what's happening in the jails. And as Judge Meyer noticed, that we are waiting on the pre-arrest and diversion group. Once we get that jail survey, I think our work will really jump off as well, because we're hoping that whatever reentry work that can be identified there could then come to us as our project. So we're excited about that. I think Dr. Slusher is maybe going to join us to help us out and kind of tell us about what's going on over in her cabinet in her area, so we can also kind of jumpstart some of our work plans. One tangible item that we do have to report out is we have some people from the library system that have joined our group, which we're very thankful for those new additions. And with that, they've been able to circulate some reentry just like websites and things to help to put on the library computers everywhere across the state. So we're really excited about that, so that clients could go in there, or just general public can go in there and be able to access reentry services on the library computers. So we're excited about that. We have another meeting coming up in March, and we've already sent out invitations for speakers for that. Much like everybody else, shout out to the staff at AOC. Maria and Sheena, thank you all. Just like Judge Jones said, we asked for something, it's in our email. So thank you, and that's what we have going on.
Thank you, Erica. For those of you who are listening, if you're having thoughts in your head about someone who should be involved either with pre-arrest and diversion or with reentry, the work groups are not appointed by the Supreme Court. We have people that come and are just industrious and want to share their time and services with us. If you have folks that you work with that you think should be involved with those work groups, please connect them with this, with the committee and with the commission, so that we can get some more folks involved. Both of those work groups are doing some meaningful work, and they probably need, I would say Erica and Steve probably need some support from more work group members who want to support them in the efforts they're making. So if you've got folks in mind, refer them to us, please. We would love to work with them. Otherwise, again, thank you to our AOC support staff who takes care of all of us. I didn't want to leave without saying it, because then I would felt like I would get in trouble somewhere. And of course, it's true, and it's always true. So Justice Conley, thank you for having us. That's the Criminal Justice Committee.
Thank you, Judge Mayer. Each of your workshop or work group leaders for outstanding work you're doing in your groups. It's amazing to see the amount of work that can be completed if we all just come together and work as a collaborative team. Before we adjourn, do any of the commission members have any comments they would like to make other than on my performance here? I mean, yes. I apologize to everyone. I'm a little on the nervous side, but.
I thank you for the opportunity. I was able to chat with Chief Justice Lambert earlier, and I shared one thing. I have 8 things to share, but I'm only going to do 4. I'll send the others by email. So what I shared with the Chief Justice, KDVA has developed with an organization called Here Now Help, a free app for veterans and service members. It does a lot of things, but to cut to the chase, they can receive 24/7 free credentialed mental health providers through this app. So it's when it comes to suicide prevention, that's a great opportunity. That's a great opportunity. And one thing we've done when we work with the organization, we've included all well, as much of the regional assistance through Kentucky, the numbers and the websites, we've included that in the app. Even the CHFS Find Help Now in Kentucky, it's actually in the app because we've included that. So we'll send information out, but it's they're tweaking the open version. We have the access code version right now where we can send it to veterans who are already vetted, but pretty soon it's going to be vetted through ID.me. Once we get that out, we will release it to everybody, and I'll get with Shauna, and we'll get it out so you can share it. So that's one thing. Let me hurry up because y'all looking at me like y'all trying to get out early. KDVA Governor Challenge, we won for the state a $300,000 grant regarding suicide mortality review. It's a great work. It's connected with Dr. Fry from U of L, who's been already doing it. It's for Jefferson County. The reason why I want to highlight it, in September, we're working on where we have to do a lethal means training and community event. And I'd like to invite the commission to be a part of that. So I'll get with Shauna. Nothing happens without Shauna. So I'll share that as well. And then KDVA has purchased or acquired, is that a good word? Yeah. A virtual job fair platform. And the first virtual for the entire state is going to be April 16th. The flyer is ready. I will send that out. And in fact, state departments can have a site on it. It's a virtual job fair for the entire state. So that flyer is ready. So our lead on that is Everett Bracken, but I'll send that flyer out and you'll have that piece. And I'm gonna stop. I'll send the other stuff with email, but those are some great things that we're doing for the state. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Session. If you will send Shauna those updates, we'll get those out to everybody. And I'd like to say that was an outstanding workshop that you had in Louisville not too long ago. It was really, yeah.
Our gentleman who's running the virtual platform, he's at that day, he's doing great work. I'm sorry. We have our new general counsel for KDVA. You all know Lily, but she's the new general counsel for KDVA as well.
Anyone else? Yes.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'll keep this short as well. I just wanted to quickly extend just immense gratitude around these 202A forums that have been conceptualized and are under design. This is an exceptional example of the capacity and vision and strength of our Judicial Commission on mental health to pull this together. And it also reflects community voice being a partner to say, hey, we need some help here. And so just so grateful for the work that's led up to this moment. I definitely wanted to thank our ASW presentation, Damon and Dawn. That was just phenomenal. And the work, I know everyone in this room could raise their hand and talk about how they've intersected with the ASW program, and just really grateful to see it continuing. And then last thing I wanted to plug is our Department for Behavioral Health, Developmental, and Intellectual Disabilities has its 2024 annual report on its website up. And I'd really encourage everyone to visit it. We'll make sure it goes out by link so that you don't have to search hard for it. It is 7 pages packed with data, because if you know me, you know I can't hold back on the data. And you'll see all of your organizations represented in some form or fashion. Just a few highlights: 149,000 unique individuals served through our community mental health centers during the year, 7,300 individuals served through our residential facilities, 27% increase in 988 utilization, a 9.8% reduction in overdose deaths, and we're excited to see what we're going to be able to announce in the coming year. Over 10,000 202A evaluations completed by our CMHCs, 138 unique AOT clients, 23,000 mental health consultations through our jail triage programs. That's just a few highlights to pique your interest, but we'll get that out to you. And thank you so much for the partnerships.
Thank you, Dr. Marks. I'll echo what you said. There may be a problem, but we don't know there's a problem unless somebody steps forward and says, hey, we got a problem. Thank you. And we can address it. Anyone else? Oh, yep.
Hello, good afternoon. I just wanted to take a second to say, for those of you that don't know, Operation Unite was started in the 5th Congressional District by Congressman Rogers. And this last year, we were able to receive opioid abatement funds to extend into 10 new counties to take us out of the 5th Congressional District. And recently, we've had 5, this is a tongue twister for me, launch luncheons for the first 5 counties that we entered. And these counties are able to receive Unite services in full. But I wanted to mention the 5 upcoming ones that we have, and if they're applicable to anybody, to write down the dates for them. And the registration links are on the website, operationunite.org. But we have Boyle County coming April 5th will be that lunch. These will all be at 12 p.m. The dates or the location should be on the website soon. Clinton County, April 14th, Estill, April 1st, and Montgomery, April 29th. Oh, and Russell, April 30th. So if that applies to anybody, please come join us. We recently launched in Madison, Powell, I'm trying to think here, Lewis, Greenup, and I'm missing one. And I can't think of it off the top of my head right now, but please come out if you can.
Thank you, Courtney. Think anyone else? Yeah.
You said if we had any complaints. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I really just a couple things very quickly. We all say that, you know what, I bet it would be a 4-hour hearing or meeting if we were doing it any other day, but Friday afternoon. It seems to expedite our meeting so much quicker. But with that having been said, I also want to thank everybody for being here. I appreciate so much the time and effort you put into it. But I wanted to say, Damon and Don, appreciated especially your presentation. I'm blessed, I guess, as Justice Conley, we've been doing this for 30 plus years doing it. And I remember what it was like when I started. I could not imagine walking any courtroom in the state of Kentucky as a judge and not have the public defenders available to represent clients. Because when I first started, they didn't. And you guys just do an absolute amazing job. And I just want you to know, I may not always agree with what they argue with me, but I always think my court's much better for having you there. And I just want to thank you very much. Marcus and the other folks that testified in the last couple of weeks, you guys did an amazing job. I really enjoyed watching it. And to our new chair, I want to tell you, you did an absolutely wonderful job chairing today's commission meeting, and it's an honor to have you with us. Did I get that right? That's what he says on my opinions.
Damon, he referred to back in the day when we first started. We didn't have public defenders. You just had to rope a local lawyer to try to take the case. And believe me, that was pretty hard.
That's why I didn't feel judge, right? So you didn't have.
Exactly.
For those that don't know, we came in as district judges together, so they just, I don't think they love us, they just promote us to get rid of us.
Yes. Social promotion.
Hi, all. I'll be quick. I believe I'm the last one holding us from leaving. But I just wanted to introduce myself. I know I'm a new face. My name is Jaden Norris. I am the new Executive Director of NAMI Kentucky, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. Many of you know my predecessor was a member of the commission. So obviously there's been some administrative changes. So now I'm happy to be here and serve in any capacity that is needed.
It's great having you, Jaden. Okay, anybody else? All right, as a reminder, look in your inbox for details about the 202A forms. I want to quickly thank Doctors Cooley, Janeski, and Woods for setting up a second tour of the Eastern State Hospital. If you haven't done that, you need, it is amazing. Additionally, each of you have received an invitation to join us for the Appalachian Valley Autism Center on April 9th. April is Autism Awareness Month, and this will be a great opportunity for us to show our support. Be sure to accept or decline the calendar invitation that Shauna sent out so we can get a head count on who's going to be present. Lastly, there are 2 press releases in your materials today to add to your binder. Please review those when you have time. Our next meeting is on June 13th here at AOC. And I think that's it. Thank you all for being here and the support that you do for the commission. Please travel safe.